Hola Murcia. I'm glad they turned on the lights so I can see you. Makes it much more comfortable. 3,000 years ago, not far from Jericho, there was a spring of water. It still exists today, although 3,000 years ago, suddenly the people using that spring started getting sick. And it says in the Bible that the men of the city said that the water is bad. They turned upon to Elisha, the prophet, and told him, help us. We need this water. So Elisha said, bring me a small mug and put salt in it. Then he went to the spring and cast the salt into the water. And the water was healed until today. This is innovation. That was the first documented water treatment plant in Israel 3,000 years ago. My name is Raanan Aadin. I'm the chairman and president of Israel Water Association, an association that brings together all parts of Israel's water sector, government, private sector, research, academy, activists, any concerned citizen can be part of this association. We do not charge membership fee because we really, really want everybody to be a member. We have an annual conference, which is a platform for public discussion on water issues, on basically everything. I will talk today about how to innovate successfully and how to succeed with innovation, but not just about innovation, because innovation is just one component of what we need in order to have a healthy water sector. We'll talk about the challenges that Israel is facing, the solutions that have been developed along the years, the key role of regulations and standards, then about innovation, and a few slides specifically about technology, and probably not what you expect to hear about it. Since we only have 2 hours, I will start immediately. 26 minutes. A few of Israel's challenges. Israel is a very small country. Today, only about 9 million people and only 21,000 square kilometers. Very small. It's not only small, there's very little relationship between Israel and our neighbors, even the countries we have peace with. So you could say that we have to manage ourselves as if we were an island. The climate is a semi-arid climate, which means mostly desert and some rainy areas. We have about 500 millimeters of rain yearly, but they are spread on a very short period of only 3 months. I wish this would work better. That's maybe another one of our challenges. Hello? I need to be here. Okay, 75% of the rain.
Give me 1 minute.
Falls in only 3 months of the year. Another challenge is population growth. Until today, from Israel's establishment in 1948, Israel's population grew 12 times. Okay? Now, can you guess what would be the population of Spain if Spain's population had grown in the same rate? Okay? Today it's about 47 million people. If Spain had grown in the same rate as Israel, you would have 330 million people today 330 hungry, thirsty people in Spain. Continue. Israel has one freshwater lake, which is the Sea of Galilee in the north. Thank you. Are you sure it works?
Right.
What do I need to push?
To the right.
Okay. No. It works only with your fingerprints. It's a biometric slide changer. Okay. It's up in the north, while Israel's population is along the coast and around the center in Jerusalem. Eventually, we end up with an almost continuous deficit of about 40% between the natural supply of water and the demand. Not only that, since 1991, we have started experiencing the climate change. But Israel did not experience it just like anyone else. We have approximately 1.5 times faster temperature increase in Israel relative to the average temperature increase in the world. And of course, changes in rain regime, etc. So what do we do with these challenges and a few more? Well, first of all, and always, start by saving water. Reduce the amount of water you use. That's the cheapest, fastest way to improve the water balance. Then what we did is try to move water from where it's at to where it's needed, from the north to the center and to the south. This is the national water carrier. Its main role in the first years after installation was to irrigate the north part of the Negev, of the desert that you saw, and bring agriculture to places where there was desert. And Israel is probably the only nation in the world where the desert decreases continuously for many years. We are not the first to do this. The Romans did this 2,000 years ago. They moved they transported water 20 kilometers with an aqueduct that you can visit on your next trip to Israel, to Caesarea. Very nice engineering project. We also reuse wastewater. This is an old picture of Israel's largest wastewater treatment plant, the Shafdan. Today it serves about 2 million people. And today, in Israel altogether, we reuse and use in irrigation 85% of municipal wastewater. And those 85% are half of the irrigation demand. Meaning, if we did not do that, half of our agriculture would be gone. We also desalinate. Since 2003, we desalinate a lot of water from the Mediterranean Sea. We did desalinate before that, but mainly saline water. Since 2003, 5 big desalination plants were built along the sea of the Mediterranean Sea coast. And today, 60% of Israel's potable water is supplied to the cities by desalination, and very soon it will be 80%. So what does Israel's water system look like? Basically, what you see here, you see blue pipes, which are fresh potable water. You see red pipes, which are the reused water. And here you can see some green pipes. These green pipes are saline water, because in some agriculture uses, we can just use saline water as it is. So why treat it instead of managing it? And altogether, we have the green spots, the 5 desalination plants that you see, and 2 more planned. And this causes additional change, because the national water carrier used to pipe water from north to south, but now most of the water is manufactured in the south, so we had to reverse the flow of the national water carrier to make it move water from where it's at to where it's needed. And all this management is a bit complex, so we can look at it more schematically on this drawing. This shows the water resources and the water users. One special water user is nature, which nature is part of Israel's water planning as a user. And it's in our multi-year plans, and it's being allocated and treated just like any other user. We also have water relationship with our neighbors. We supply water to Jordan, mainly to Amman, the capital, and of course to the Palestinian Authority. We also receive water from our neighbors. We have rivers crossing our borders in almost all sides of Israel. And some of these rivers are polluted, so they don't go into the water resources circle, but first they go into the wastewater treatment plants, and from there they are treated and being reused and put back into the cycle. So what we see is a complex array of water resources and water users, and they interact. And when they interact, it brings forward the importance of managing water quality. And that's what we need to take care of today. We need to manage water quality at least as good, if not more, than we manage water quantity. If we don't, this is what we will get. This is a field, an agricultural field, that was irrigated with desalinated water. Desalinated water is exactly what it's called, desalinated, demineralized water without the magnesium. Even if you add calcium, you're still violating the balance of the minerals in the water, and that's what you get. So today we know how to manage it, mix, supply to the right places, to the right users, etc. Okay, let's talk about regulations. Israel's regulations that I want to emphasize are the following two. First of all, the main water law of Israel. All water sources in Israel are the property of the public. The government has been appointed to manage these water resources, but they are the property of the public. And Israel's water authority does this management. A more recent law is the price of water shall reflect its cost. This generates a closed water economy, meaning it's possible to plan much better because you don't need to compete with other sectors on the budgets. And you can really plan what you do with the resources. And the users of the water know that they are using water and they are paying for it with money that goes back into managing that infrastructure. And these are key issues, and they're brought to real completeness and holistic management. For example, some people are surprised to hear that we also manage rainwater. I mean, if rain falls on my roof, it should be mine. I should be able to collect it and use it. But no, it's part of the water cycle. If I use it, it will not go into the aquifer. And that's public water. So either you take this holistically, or it starts being a bit complex. And in some countries in this world, there is enough water, but it cannot be managed because it's not managed in this holistic way. And so many of you heard about water rights. And in places where there are water rights and where water is free, it's really quite impossible to have a balanced water sector. Okay, now bringing the cost to the front and managing it results, for example, that water corporations or urban water corporations reduce the loss to less than 10%. Which is considered fantastic. Now, why do they do it? Because it's part of their economy. They are measured by it and motivated to do it. On the national level, with the national water carrier, The loss is even lower, and it's less than 3%, which is a world record. So once things are done correctly, they sort of feed themselves and generate even better action. So innovation, okay? Who in this hall deals with innovation in some sort of way? Probably everybody. Well, I also do, okay? This is what I consider Israel's innovation cycle. We won't go through this. Each of these rectangles is a lecture in itself. I just want to emphasize one of them. And this is the values of this. A startup, an innovative project in a big company, a research project, any activity that includes innovation can work and then suddenly meets one of the milestones. We need to test. We need proof of concept. We need to get budget. We need to expand. We need to write a patent. And each of these, when not successful, could literally kill the project. How do we manage an innovation system to allow or help the innovators pass these values of this? So what Israel does, and not only Israel, any healthy, innovative ecosystem, is start with research and invest a lot in the universities and research institutes. Continue by funding early stage startups, because you can't tell all the startups, okay, do the proof of concept, get the first installation, then call me. I mean, somebody has to support those stages as well. Support pilots, support clusters, because many innovations are a merge or a hybrid of technologies, ideas, and scientific discoveries. And the special focus is on the feasibility lab, and I will get back to that in a minute. Israel also participates in European programs, Horizon 2020 and the following program, it's starting soon. A lot of binational agreements all around the world. We also invest in marketing. We actually fund marketing efforts for startups and allow them to be supported to go to conferences and exhibitions, because it's a key part of having successful innovation. We operate with ISO, the International Standards Organization, and we allocate budgets in order to generate new standards by Israeli organizations and companies. And then when that standard is published, the Israeli companies are already there and already with products that meet those standards. So they can call a potential customer and tell them, listen, have you heard of this standard? Well, you must have it in your next tender, and wow, we have an advantage. And of course, global support of all our diplomatic staff, economic attachés, ambassadors, and any official representative of Israel around the world, when approached by a startup or a company trying to bring their innovative ideas abroad, will always be happy to help. So a feasibility lab, why is this emphasized? Because this is probably the most important thing that happens in Israel that encourages startups to succeed. There is a culture that goes top-down from the government to private sector, to investors, to anyone, that allowing feasibility tests is a good thing. It's not a risk, it's not a liability. And even if you're not going to use it later, and even if it doesn't have any immediate impact on your system, then whether it's a national infrastructure or in water corporation or an industrial plant, which always looks only at the bottom line, when an entrepreneur or innovator comes and says, listen, I need your help, I'm trying to develop something new, the answer will mostly be, yes, what do you need? You want to talk with people, you need data. You want to test something, of course, no health risk or operational or safety risks are taken, but there is a first of all answer of yes, and then, okay, let's see how to do it right. And that's very important in any ecosystem, innovation ecosystem that is able to implement that culture there will surely succeed. A few examples. This is a valve that was developed in order to solve the problem of very small or very slow flows that are not measured by water meters. And these generate a lot of loss. So this basically doesn't allow slow flows to happen, and it opens only after a minimum flow exists. It was tested in one of Israel's water corporations, and this was the only way it could prove its concept and be eventually marketed abroad. A water disinfection system working with ultraviolet radiation, which usually the ultraviolet light goes one time through the water. They developed a system where it has multiple reflections internally. And again, you can't prove this without getting some collaboration. And it was tested on drinking water, and it was tested in Israel's industry. It was always tested parallel to conventional, existing, proven other technologies, but that was the only way to eventually make it happen and make it proven for the world. A decentralized wastewater treatment system that works on very low energy and can only be field tested somewhere. So this was installed on a relatively small town in Israel and proved itself. And it eventually today, it was called MFC. It was acquired by a group of Australian investors. And today it's one of the largest companies in the world that deals with decentralized water treatment. And last example, okay? This is where one would say, it's a piece of plastic. Yes, it is, but it's a very smart piece of plastic. This prevents evaporation. You put this around a tree. It prevents evaporation. It collects humidity during the night, and it brings rain closer to the roots of the tree. And by putting this piece of plastic on a tree, you can dramatically accelerate its growth. But only if you prove that it works. So we go back to the issue of feasibility. But you need vision. This ecosystem, eventually, when it works, it works. When you have innovations that work, you have investors that invest, you have successful developments that generate profits, that encourage more innovations and encourage more investors. And this ecosystem, once it exists, it can continue. How do we do that? We start by decision making, by knowing how to select the right innovations to invest in from the research phase. Right? How to judge them, how to encourage them, and how to take risk. Israel's Innovation Authority is measured not by the amount of profits they make, by the amount of loss they make. In a profitable year, it means not enough risk was taken. And it's literally an organization which is required to lose money. But that's true in a certain phase of the development. We have to do the post-investment management correctly. And I believe Hadar said a few things about those issues. We have to overcome the valleys of death, which we talked about earlier. And we have to manage the whole life cycle of the project because we need to see in the beginning of the development how it's going to end. Very, very important is to give attention to collaborations. Collaborations with governmental bodies, but also research collaborations with universities and other research institutes. The scientific advice that can be given or scientific understanding of inventions is very important. And it's always good to know the experts and to bring them in order to learn what we can. Another very important issue is being global. Right? Global investors. Look for global investors. Do the marketing globally. You're right, maybe the idea came from here, from next door, from the next farm. But once you decided to enter an innovation cycle, thinking globally will allow broad selection of investors. It will allow a broad market to be addressed, and it will eventually give a more confident, it will give much more confidence of success. Technology. Okay. This is a slide of technology outlook. Again, each term here is a lecture by itself. But more important is to understand that technology is a tool, not a target. What eventually the users need, they need solutions. Technology could be part of these solutions. Sometimes technology is the solution. What am I trying to tell you? No, I'm not trying to tell you that technology is not important. I'm trying to tell you to always remember to put technology in the right scope. I meet too many entrepreneurs saying, oh, my innovation, everybody needs it. It's the best way to treat water. It's the best way to treat wastewater by far. Yeah, it does require a bit more energy. No, yeah, and it does generate sludge, of course, but someone else has to deal with it. No, we're always part of a solution, and we have to consider it in the beginning in order to direct our efforts to the right segment, to the first place where our invention is really the added value that everybody is waiting for. Consider it as a tool, consider it as part of a solution or a system or a sector, and you will reach your goals much faster. So, what could we say that we've learned? First of all, we need a better slide changer. Then, understanding today's water cycle is important. It's a complex, hybrid combination of sources and users, and quality is now the key. Regulations and standards can form a well-managed water sector. They also eventually encourage innovation, where regrettably, solutions are adopted either if they generate profit or if the regulator requires them. In many cases, the regulator is the one that is needed in order for innovation to be accepted. And an advanced innovative water industry could be generated by looking at all the aspects that it needs and addressing the full product life cycle. Okay. And last, technology is a tool and not a target. Let's remember this and use it wisely. Muchas gracias. Thank you.